Welcome to another episode of AutoSave. I'm Nick Andrade here with my co-host Camille Salazar Hadaway, and on this episode of AutoSave, we're continuing our dive into Final Fantasy VII Remake. Camille, how are you doing today, and how are you doing Final Fantasy-wise?
Okay, look, it's going to be a hard episode. It's an emotional one. I have a tissue box nearby, very emotional. So I'm doing as good as I could do today.
I don't have any tissues, but I do have a 2021 final property tax bill information pamphlet that I will use to wipe my
dab
tears
it under the eyes.
If anything
Don't be
happens.
too rough. Paper cuts.
Hopefully the tax bill will disappear and I won't have to pay it.
Yeah. You're crying over these chapters of Final Fantasy VII, but also the taxes that you're going to have to pay this year.
It's true. It's true. But before we get into this tearjerker of an episode, we want to talk about the last episode and where we left off. We found our way out of the sewers after Don Corneo trapped us. And then there was some weird, haunted adventure with Cloud, Tifa, and Aerith where weird things happened with dead children. I don't really know. I'm still confused by it.
They were dead.
They were dead. It wasn't. I mean, it might have been Sixth Sense. It was closely tied to that, but we did mention that.
No Bruce Willis. Yeah.
No. So take a listen if you haven't. But the most important thing that happened in this episode is we found out that Shinra was ready to level Sector 7. They were going to destroy it.
Tifa.
They're really gonna drop the plate.
They won't if Barrett and the others have anything to say about it.
All we can do now is keep moving. Please let us be in time.
Aerith is right in this sense. All we can do is keep moving forward. And that's what we're doing. We're moving forward into Chapter 12 and 13 and the fight to protect Sector 7. And our theme today is All is Lost. And that's a story arc where it seems like there's no way back and the main characters will lose completely. I don't want to say this as a spoiler alert because, this game is full of surprises. We really don't know what's happening. So we're not going to say all is completely lost. But usually in this kind of trope, it kind of shows the low points of a hero's journey. Something that we see obviously really often. And before the climax of the story, they usually go through the lowest point in the story where, it seems like everything is going wrong.
These moments are the moments where you definitely can cry, get really emotional. Sometimes it could be really cheesy too, depending on how it's done. But I think my favorite example would have to be in The Last of Us Part 2.
Oh, okay. Should we? Okay, yeah. We can talk spoilers on this, right?
Do I spoil it?
No, you don't have to.
Okay, I won't. But, we lose a character that's kind of taking us along the journey of that series. And I kind of spoiled it. I don't know. And it's very emotional. And you don't know necessarily where the story of The Last of Us will go after that. So definitely could get emotional. I remember crying like a baby when that happened. The performances were just so good. But are there any other examples, Nick, that you could think of?
There are, but I wanted to say first is I hate these kind of moments because, again, I am such a sucker for a happy ending. And I know there has to be some sort of conflict in things that happen, but it just reminds me of like a horror movie where at the beginning, like the family just moved into a new house and they're having so much fun and the kids are on the swings. I always feel so like sad at that moment because I know, well, they're either going to die or get haunted.
It's going to go wrong. Yeah. It's going to go wrong really quickly. Yeah.
But the examples for me is obviously we talk a lot about Star Wars in this one. The Empire Strikes Back. The end of that movie, it seems like all is lost. Han has been frozen into carbonite. Luke has lost a hand and looks like there's no way out. And the Empire has a stranglehold on everything. Are there any other examples that you can think of?
The Lion King. I mean, Mufasa.
Ooh, okay.
That was like a really emotional. Mine are very tragic. What is wrong with me?
It's all dealing with death.
I know, right? It's like, what? What is wrong with me? I swear I'm a happy person, but that was a really traumatic one. I feel like you probably have a happier moment, or like a more lighthearted fall from grace, if you will.
Yes, there's the one that I laughed about. I was searching online to see like, what kind of tropes there were included with this. And the one that came up that I loved was Anchorman, when he goes, milk was a bad choice, when he's trying to talk to his friends and they can't talk to him because he's been outcasted. I thought that was really funny. It seems like Ron Burgundy, all is lost for him. And then I also wanted to mention Toy Story 3. Come on.
Oh my God.
When they're in the incinerator. And I honestly thought that this was it. Yeah, I thought this was it. I felt so emotional at that point of that movie. But again, that movie makes me cry. / all Pixar movies makes me cry.
Did you watch that movie in a theater?
I actually watched that movie, yes, and I watched it on a date. And
okay.
I was trying to hide my tears. Not a good idea, by the way.
No. Yeah, no. But when I watched it in theaters as well, and the whole like theater just was like, like just so shocked by that moment, really sad. But on another lighthearted example, going along with Will Ferrell movies, I'm gonna go with Zoolander. Ben Stiller, when he loses his housemates,
yes,
because of the freak gas accident. Horrible. Didn't know if he would return.
Yeah, that's one of the best scenes in cinematic history, by the way. I've watched that scene so many times and I don't get sick of it. Like, what is it? Orange mocha latte frappuccinos.
Yeah, frappuccinos, guys. Yeah, I love that movie. Another fall from grace moment when he sees his family, his dad and brothers in the mines, working the mines, and they have that montage where he's messing everything up, and then he looks to the puddle, a la, Lion King style, and he's asking the question, "Who am I? I don't know. Who are you?" I love that movie. Anyways, he's a great model, by the way. I love Zoolander.
His blue steel, incredible. Final ones that I wanted to mention: The Dark Knight Rises. It's a slow build because, again, you don't see Batman a lot in this movie, but Bane breaks his back, sends him to Bane's prison, and he has a long recovery to the end of the movie where I don't even think he's going to make it out because it's like 30 plus minutes of the movie before he gets out.
When I see him doing his push-ups, and I'm like, thank goodness we're going somewhere. Thank goodness he's back. Yeah, that's a good moment.
Well, I think that's it. We got to dive into this story in Final Fantasy and see where the breaking point lies. And after the break, we dive into Chapter 12 and 13 of Final Fantasy VII Remake on AutoSave.
Attention, Avalanche! You are surrounded! Stand down and surrender to public security immediately! Shinra does not negotiate with terrorists! Resist and we will use lethal force! I repeat, Shinra does not negotiate with terrorists! Resist and we will use lethal force!
Got your lethal force right here, asshole!
One of my favorite lines in the entire game. Got your lethal force right here, asshole. Give me some of that, Barrett. Give me some of that.
Yeah, I just want a live action Barrett movie, just so that like in like 90s action style movies, just one-liners all the way.
You know what? I'm going to bring this up right now. Final Fantasy VII is a game I think that could be done well as a movie. Do you agree?
Oh, don't put it out there. Do not put it out there. I feel like if that were to happen...
Sorry, just make sure that you don't, like, you get the right actors, okay? I don't want to see a Dragon Ball Evolution movie, please.
Well, that's what I was like saying. I'm like,
Death
it's
Note.
either going to be like... Well, that's exactly. I'm like, if you put it out there, Netflix is probably going to pick it up because obviously they listen to our podcast for ideas. And then they'll just cast it wrong and then put it up on Netflix and it'll be horrible. So... No.
Just please, just don't make it Americanized. Just
No.
Just follow the script and you'll be okay. Okay, anyway, this is chapter 12, Fight for Survival, and it's Shinra versus Avalanche. Barrett, Jesse, Wedge, and Biggs are fending off Rude, Reno, and the rest of the Shinra goons on top of Sector 7 Pillar. Meanwhile, Tifa, Aerith, and Cloud come in time just to help, but their way is blocked by guess who? Spectres, Camille. We just see these specters all the time.
Honestly, like, specters, get out of here, okay? Like, are you with us? Are you against us? I am getting so upset seeing these guys or girls, just because I don't know what they want. And that's the most infuriating thing, because it seems like before at the church, they were helping Aerith. Now that you're trying to save, what is it? Is it 1 million people in Sector 7, is it? I feel like it is, like around there, maybe thousands of people. Don't have the actual numbers from Shinra yet, but we're working on getting them. But it's like we're trying to save a large population of people here, and it's like now you decide to have second thoughts about helping us? Like, come on.
Again, too, it feels like with Cloud's constant headaches, these things come very often. So I feel like, Square Enix is telling us, hey, these guys are very important to the story, so please keep an eye on what's going on, because they just pop up everywhere. And it seems like they're blocking certain things from happening, which makes me very curious.
Like, are they the timekeepers? Like, are they trying to keep us on a, a main timeline here? Like, I don't know what's going on. But I think what's also really frustrating is they're not even that difficult to fight off. It's just that there's a lot of them, and then they keep bounding, like
popping over.
Oh my gosh.
And over. But yeah, it takes forever to fight them. Also, great Loki reference there. But Aerith, when you defeat all the specters again for the umpteenth time, she looks at them longingly, like she knows them. And I think Tifa notices that. I'm curious what you think about in terms of like why Aerith is looking at them in a certain way, like almost like she's hurt by them.
Well, it's like I feel like Aerith is kind of like us. She's trying to maybe like how my theory that Aerith kind of knows, how her outcome will be, what's going on with the events and how they're supposed to happen. Maybe the specters are trying to make sure that happens. Whereas Aerith, like she said in the previous chapters, she believes the future's not set in stone, where she's trying to change things. So I feel like she's kind of like giving them this glare of like, no, we could do something about it. It doesn't have to be this way. Also, why is no one recognizing that Tifa is the most inquisitive person in this whole game?
Right?
She's the only one that really is asking questions, like when Cloud has like just randomly glances off and has his flashbacks or, for visions, or like when Aerith says something weird, like she's on top of the ball. And I just wanted to give her some recognition for that. Good on you, Tifa.
Yeah, she notices a lot of people's eyes. She's always like, are you sure that you're okay? So again, she's just a lovely person. But we actually end up stumbling upon Wedge, who is okay. He's not dead. He's just a little banged up. And this is when Cloud says, all right, I'm going to move forward. Aerith, Tifa, you stay with Wedge. Keep him safe. And I'm going to see what's going on. And that's when Cloud ends up meeting Biggs.
Biggs!
You made it. No, I might not. Hey, is Wedge?
Don't worry. He'll bounce back.
That's good to hear. Could have used some extra padding myself.
Don't talk.
It's pretty bad up there. Cloud, promise me, don't let it be for nothing.
What about you?
I've still got some fight left in me. Enough for another platoon or two. Don't gotta be a soldier to make a difference.
And this is where you can choose what to say. He says, promise me, don't let it be for nothing. And you can either say, I won't, or what about you? Do you remember what you picked in this certain scenario?
I said, what about you?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I believe if you say I won't, he says like you're a good guy or something like that. Is that right?
Yeah.
Did you pick I
Yep,
won't?
that's the one I picked. Yeah, I picked I won't.
Yeah, no, I didn't get that.
Because I knew off the bat, I'm like, yes, I'm Cloud. I'm a good guy. I'm picking this line.
Yeah, but isn't it a good guy to like, wouldn't it be better if you were asking about him? How about him? Like, you don't want to leave him behind. Right. So that's what I was thinking, because at this part too, I don't know about you, because Biggs is obviously pretty banged up. And in the previous chapter, we actually find out that at Leaf House, Biggs played a huge part there. So through that, like those little story tidbits, I actually didn't realize when it came to this part how much I cared about Biggs as a character. Yeah. We spend so little time with him, but somehow, for me at least, the game was able to, through like, you know, these small facts of him helping out Leaf House. And I think he was previously working there. And then, you know, to our small interactions at the beginning, especially with the mission for Jesse's house there, and like how he talks to you, it's just you feel like he's your friend. And I was actually surprised with, maybe it was the music, but I was surprised with how emotional I was getting just watching this scene play out.
I think it has to do with how well they've been able to develop characters in this game, where the characters that we normally don't latch onto, Biggs, Wedge, Jesse, even Barrett and Tifa, like we know more about them. Because of this game, we're able to dive in more because it's only the first part, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, I felt the same way emotionally. I felt for Biggs because we've been through something already. It wasn't just he's part of Avalanche, we know him, and now he's dying. He's dying, or well, we think he's dying. This is actually like, okay, we've gone through his story. We know that he's a nice guy. We know that he protects people. So I actually care, and that's a great thing that I think Square Enix added to this whole story, was able to expand on characters that we didn't have expansion on before.
Yeah, and also like there's something in, you know, Terminator, right? Where he gives the thumbs up, and it's like that small motion of like, we're friends, like this is okay. I'm gone, but this is okay. That's kind of when Biggs gives you the little fist. That's kind of what I felt here. So like I think Biggs is dead, because they kind of make it unclear whether he's dead or just like kind of passed out or not. What do you think?
At this point, I think again, like, unless, especially with, you know, Hollywood deaths, it's always like, yeah. So you know that they're like dead because they just fall and collapse. But with Biggs, that doesn't happen. So we don't really know what happens to him. I wanted to mention as well, this is the first point where I really feel a sense that Cloud cares for these people.
Yes.
It started already a little bit, but this is the point where now he's doing this because these are his friends.
Well, I feel like with Corneo, although he needed the push from Aerith to go after Tifa, through that mission, you really see a development of his friendship, not just with Aerith and with Tifa, but even how Tifa's worried, like leading up to this point, Tifa's worried about what's going to happen to Sector 7. You see that he cares that Tifa's worried, because this is important to her. And now, like you said, we get that glance that he not only just cares about Tifa, but cares about Biggs, Wedge, Barrett, Jesse. So this, although it was a sad beginning for the chapter, and, you know, pretty sad chapter overall, it was very comforting to see this emotion coming from Cloud.
Well, hold your tears for now, because up the tower we go as we fight off enemies, open treasures, open up some Shinra boxes, until we run into Reno and Rude as they're trying to hit us with some bullets in their chopper. But it triggers a cutscene back to Tifa and Aerith, and Tifa is going to go help Cloud, while Aerith agrees to rescue Marlene, who is stuck alone in 7th Heaven. Maybe you should have checked on a child. That's just my guess. Taking care of children. I don't know. But a cool thing here is Aerith already guessed what Tifa was going to ask
Yes.
or talk about with Marlene. I thought that was really cool. Again, she really feeds off emotion. I not that she's a mind reader, but I feel like she's an emotional reader.
Yeah. In Star Trek, we call this an empath.
Okay.
Troy from Next Generation, such a nerdy reference here, but she was an empath. She could read people's emotions and kind of what they're thinking based off of that. And yeah, like Tifa really doesn't say anything at all. Because she's kind of like, firstly, Tifa's going through her own emotional trauma here because this is her home. So she doesn't muster up the words to say what she wants to do, but Aerith just gets that. And this happens a few times leading up to the point where Aerith just gets what Tifa is thinking. And I think, we should mention that's kind of like brewing a friendship that they have. Like, when you find a best friend, usually your best friend knows exactly what you're thinking or is able to kind of fill that gap and maybe poke at you if you want someone to listen to you, but you don't know how to say it. And I kind of see that relationship budding between Tifa and Aerith. So that's interesting that the game is creating more of a friendship here between the two.
And there's no rivalry because they both clearly like Cloud, and they're putting that to the side because they're becoming friends, which is really cool. So this leads to Wedge leading Aerith back to the slums, and there's another cutscene here where Wedge convinces one of the soldiers to actually open the gates to let people get to safety, and Wedge has this impassionate speech.
I'm not sure what's gonna happen next, but I am sure I don't want to regret the choices I make tonight. Our lives are in your hands. If you don't open up, we're all gonna die.
It's a new recruit who says, "Open the gates," and he kind of trumps his other buddy soldier here.
His senior, yeah.
I like this aspect because it was like telling us, hey, no matter what, we all have a choice, regardless of the situation we're in or maybe who our bosses are. You as a person always have a choice. And I like that.
Yeah, I feel like maybe with the original game, it kind of seemed like things were really black and white. And, I think the game did a good job at making a conflict get very, political, showing the nuances of and everything that goes into like an issue like this. But some of the matters, it just seemed very abrupt in the original. Now they're able, through character development and even through like NPCs and like these smaller characters that you don't even know, just a random soldier, just show that it's much more complicated than that. So I like that.
So Aerith goes back to Seventh Heaven, and this is, for me, the most annoying part of this whole chapter. She tries to get Marlene, but a helicopter crashes, and while she tries to find another way out, she helps another child to rescue.
That's
and
what
this is,
I was saying. I'm glad you feel this way. Continue.
So one, what frustrates me the most in every game imaginable is when there's a scene where you can't auto run and you have to walk, and you have to walk so slow because walking in games is so slow. Everyone runs in games, but when the cutscene or whatever game feature only lets you walk so slowly, I want to die. I hate it so much. And in this case, one, we have to save Marlene, and two, now we're just saving some random child, and it's taking forever. Marlene could be dead by now.
It's taking forever. It is taking, oh my God, it takes forever. Firstly, how is it that I feel like Aerith could have maybe squeezed her way through that helicopter crash 100%. Area straight to Seventh Heaven, but I won't get into that. Secondly, why is it when everyone else is running, panicking because we all know this plate is falling, people are shooting, Aerith's just like, you know what, let me just walk. I'm just going to walk through this. Then she finds the kid. She then has this whole conversation with them. There's no because Aerith is very positive, right? Almost to a flaw, right? Where someone needs to light a fire underneath her to feel like the anxiousness that she should be feeling right now to help Marlene, who she still has no idea what's going on with Marlene. Or maybe she is so in tune with everything that's happening. She's able to read everything that's happening through these events, and that's why she's calm and walking through. All I know as a player, it's the most irritating thing because then you have to walk her to Meryl, and then you have another little small moment where Meryl's like, I'll look after her, and then the father comes up and it's like, I really don't care about this interaction. We should be finding Marlene.
There is no reason they should have had this part in the game. It really gives you nothing because you could have just saved Marlene and cut all that.
It does. It makes you feel a little anxious that something may happen to Marlene. That's what I was in this moment. I was like, oh my God, they're delaying it because something's going to they're trying to set up an explanation as to why Aerith is late and something's happening to Marlene. So I was anxious, but it was a lot. It was a lot. Don't put me through this again.
Yeah. It's like I notice a lot in games when you have to walk on purpose. It's normally like you're like stunned and then you're like, ugh, but it takes 10 years. I please, Square Enix, never add walking scenes again. Just make us run. Like even with the kid, like, you know, it's like an egg and you're just hopping along really fast. Like, can you let me do that, please? Okay.
Yeah.
Aerith manages to finally get to Marlene after this whole kerfuffle.
You smell nice.
Oh?
Like a flower.
I hope you remember it. Come on.
You led us on a merry chase, Aerith.
Sung.
Before you say another word, know that your options are limited.
How about we make a deal?
So a lot to unpack here. There's a little bit before this cutscene here. There's Marlene and Aerith embrace, let's say. And Marlene is very scared in the moment. And then she triggers one of those cloud headaches. We don't see what the vision is, but it does that weird glitch thing.
The grainy thing, yeah.
Yes.
Filter over the game, yeah.
And then she looks at Aerith, and Aerith looks at her and goes, shh, to not say anything.
Firstly,
Camille,
that's
what the hell
creepy
is that
to
about?
do that to a kid.
Yeah,
Don't tell a kid,
it is.
shh. Okay.
Yeah.
But secondly, now this is making me think, is Marlene like Aerith?
Ooh, is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, because I'm like, whose vision was that? That was Marlene's vision. Like, I would think that's Marlene's vision because Marlene notices something after they embrace.
I thought what it was them coming together and embracing, that Aerith is transferring something over to Marlene.
Ooh.
So what I thought happened was she was nervous, and then the connection that they made maybe showed Marlene something that made her think that everything is going to be okay.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I guess that would make sense kind of with before when we saw Aerith and Cloud walking. And then I believe there was a little bit of that graininess too before Cloud sheds that tear. Right? So maybe that's what it is. She's transferring, kind of like how the ghost in the graveyard were transferring those visions of the people that Aerith, like that past life of Aerith, or like Aerith as a kid, you know, in the graveyard. And then when Tifa looked, she saw Marlene, the things she's worried about, right? Maybe Aerith kind of is doing the same thing as those ghosts did. So maybe Aerith's a ghost. Maybe. No, she's not a ghost. She's not a ghost. But maybe she has similar powers in that sense.
Yeah, what if Marlene is like Aerith?
Well, that's what I initially thought, because I'm like, how would Marlene know something about Aerith that no one else has noticed about Aerith? And we don't know much about Marlene's family.
No, yeah, we know nothing really about her. We just know that Barrett's her dad. So
exactly.
Who is she? Ooh, that's something maybe we can unpack later. I don't know. But we also meet in that cutscene Seng, who is another Turk and knows Aerith, and it looks like that they are being kidnapped. So that's nice.
Yeah. My thing is, I feel like saying like he's just creeping me out. Like a lot of these Turks just creep me
They're
out.
all creepy. All creepy.
Other than Mr. Worldwide Rude, who just
Dale,
is pretty much Pitbull Dale, who's pretty much just Pitbull in Final Fantasy VII. But it just seems like they have this like, I don't know, a weird relationship with Aerith. And because we don't know what that relationship is, I just automatically assume like he has ulterior motives and he's being creepy.
Oh, 100%. But I really don't know. Let's get back to the other side of the story. As Tifa meets up with Cloud on the pillar, and they're still getting shot at by a bajillion machine gun bullets from helicopters. And that's when they meet up with Jessie.
I really wanted to believe we could.
Yeah. You owe me a pizza.
That's right. I do. But I don't think... Oh no. Tifa's crying. Did I say something wrong? Don't you guys have somewhere to be? It's not polite to stare, you know.
Okay, not to ruin this moment of sadness here, but I thought of something as we were listening to that clip. And Cloud must feel really bad for calling Jessie desperate, that son of a bitch.
Yes, I'm pretty sure he feels like a jerk now. But one thing actually in this moment, firstly, the tears, the emotion. I never thought I'd care this much about Jessie. Like I said, same with Biggs. I cared so much. I don't know if it was the music, seeing the emotion coming from Cloud. Like now Cloud really isn't holding back on his emotion here. When he grabs Jessie's hand, right? Because she's slowly fading away. And he kind of grabs her hand to hold it back to show like, no, you can't go. I'm having chills right now talking about it, but it was really eye-opening to how much these people actually mean to Cloud. And also because he's seeing his best friend or his sister, as he puts it, Tifa, crying over losing her family. These people are her family, right? So yeah, I cried. Did you cry, Nick?
You cried? I didn't cry, but I was surprised at everyone that was dying. And I do remember in the Final Fantasy original game, Wedge, Biggs, and Jessie all die.
Yes.
In the Shinra explosion. So far, we have ambiguous Biggs, not really sure if he's dying. Wedge at the moment's okay. And now Jessie's dead, but I was surprised at this. I thought, especially with all these specters trying to do all these weird things, I was surprised that Jessie died. Even though I know what happened in the original, I thought she wasn't going to die here.
Well, yeah, this game has really showed how it's a remake, right? In different instances. So I thought this was a moment that they would change, especially because, like, I don't know what your thoughts were on the specters at this moment, but I thought they were helping Jessie.
If they were helping Jessie, though.
Yeah, because so when Jessie holds up the grenade before we see, Tifa and Cloud sees her, she holds up the grenade to the helicopters and she's like shouting at them. And it kind of to me were like the specters pulling up behind her like, yeah, we hear, we're fighting with her, we're in this together, because that wouldn't be odd behavior with the specters. But then you find her dead and I was like, I don't know what to believe now. Like, I don't know if they caused it or was trying to shield her.
There's so many questions with these guys. They're just it's not we don't know if they're changing events or if they're protecting events from making sure that these events happen, right? Yeah. I can't tell one way or the other if it's to change events or to protect events that have happened. That's what I'm trying to decipher, and I really can't with this.
Yeah, this game is just playing with our emotions, really.
It is. Yeah. There's just every time I play through this game, like I have so many question marks.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see if they get answered. I don't know. But we have no time to mourn here because we got to get up to the top of the pillar and we meet up with Barrett. And guess who's there? Mr. Worldwide himself, Rude, and Reno. And it's time for a good old-fashioned boss fight.
Boss fight. Yeah, like this one's interesting because we faced Reno before and Mr. Worldwide himself, Rude, but then there's a different dynamic here because we have a helicopter that is really annoying. It's not even
Cheaters.
difficult. This fight's not difficult at all.
No.
It's just more annoying than anything else because of the helicopter and because Reno is so fast. Like super fast. So you have to kind of align. I just was trying to force those staggered attacks and then just hammer down on him. How'd you do?
Well, I found it more difficult because after the fact, I found out that you can actually sleep Rude during this fight.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either because, again, sleep is something I always think for boss fights, it normally isn't effective in general.
Isn't effective,
in
yeah.
gaming.
Yeah.
It usually just says no effect. So I didn't think that was possible. So when I read back on it and I found out that you can actually sleep him, that's the easier way to go because then if you dodge with Reno and then he gets staggered really easy, that fight becomes even easier, which, again, the fight was pretty easy in general, but that's an also mechanic that you can use that actually is effective.
Interesting. And then you get to the point where, because it starts off with Reno on the ground. And then when you kind of knock him out, Rude jumps off. There was this like fake death scene between Rude and Reno. Reno thinking Rude died, picks up the glasses. And then behind him was Rude
instantly
with another pair of glasses.
I love how he has so many pairs of glasses.
Yeah, how does he keep them all in that one packet? It's like Mary Poppins. That pocket is Mary Poppins' bag.
His glasses can help him fly away.
Yeah, his glasses, and then it's pretty easy there. The only thing was Rude's pyramid. I didn't realize he cast a pyramid on Tifa at this point. So I was like, why can't I select Tifa? Like, I don't understand what's happening. And then I turned around. I turned around and I was like, oh, that's why.
Yeah. You have to break her out. Or in my case, it was Cloud who had the pyramid. So 100% noticeable if Cloud has a pyramid on him.
Yeah.
But again, like we said, fight's relatively easy. There's not too much going on there. But we got to stop them from activating and initiating the plate of the pillar to fall.
What do we do?
Nothing. There is nothing you can do now.
You can't do this! Eva! I found Marlene! Aerith!
Marlene? My Marlene? What did you do with her?
Where are you?
I'm at the... Sir, your activities unwittingly brought you into contact with the Ancients, who is now back in our custody where she belongs. For this, you have my sincerest gratitude. Alas, the sector in which you stand has been condemned.
Ancient?
Run! You have to go now!
A powerful separation imminent. Evacuate the area immediately.
Just like Cloud said, Camille. Ancient ? What is that?
I know, Cloud actually being actually listening and questioning what someone's saying.
It's because it's Aerith, that's why.
I know. Aerith, ancient? Should that freak me out? Should we not go on a date? I don't know. Cloud's trying to figure it out. But yeah, ancient. So this is interesting because I feel like this is going to open up a can of worms of like, and hopefully reveals a lot of the mysteries and questions, answer the questions that we have around Aerith. But it is very weird when they mention this. What else was weird is that Rude was the one that initiated the plate removal, because although Rude, like in the helicopter scenes before this, when he's up there with Reno, they discuss this, and Rude's kind of like, yeah, I guess we have to do what we got to do. And in your fight with Reno, the first time before Rude actually drops down from the helicopter, he kind of cuts off Reno from like actually shooting at you and like hurting Cloud. So it seemed like he may have been having like second thoughts about dropping this plate, or maybe not wanting to play an actual hand in the plate dropping, but then completely does a 180 and is just like, yeah, I'm here. I'm going to switch it myself. It's the weirdest thing.
Yeah. I think what we've noticed with these Turks and sometimes with these cutscenes is that they do have some sense of a conscience. And again, we mentioned in the last episode, I think Reno mentioned something about, well, it's too late to have a conscience now. But Reno, Rude, and even Sang, from just the little bit that we've known him, it seems like they all have some sort of conscience. But again, they work for Shinra. They have things that they have to do. So I feel like they're in a constant battle of, is this the right thing to do? Should I do it? Or just say, fuck it and just do it anyway because this is what I'm told to do. I feel like we can see that kind of conflict in their heads throughout this game. And that's one of those moments too. Again, it's confusing. Rude protects them at one point and then drops a plate on probably thousands of people.
And then also now I guess we're getting a look at the Spectre's hand in this because they protect Rude as well. So maybe you're right in terms of they're trying to make sure that these events do happen if that is what's supposed to happen.
Yeah, I guess so, because it's blocking Cloud from attacking Rude from that to happen. So I guess in the Spectre's eye, that is what's supposed to happen. So I think we're starting to piece a little bit together of what these Spectres are actually doing. So maybe we're finally getting a little bit of a tidbit of what's going on.
Finally.
That's the end of this chapter, actually. As the plate comes crashing down to destroy Sector 7, Cloud, Barret, and Tifa have to escape really quickly. They got about 20 seconds to do so, and they manage to escape on a bungee cord as we see a wide shot of Sector 7 being completely leveled, fires all over the place. And that ends this Chapter 12. After the break, we tackle Chapter 13 on AutoSave.
Hey, Tifa, know anything about ancients?
I know I've heard of them, at least.
They come up in planetology books. Meant to be the original stewards of the planet. Could even commune with it, talk to it and stuff.
That must be why the Turks wanted her so badly.
In my veins flows the blood of ancients. This planet is my birthright. You have failed again, I see. Through suffering, you will grow strong. Isn't that what you want?
Cloud?
Okay, so we get a little tidbits there. First, Sephiroth says that he is an ancient, and that blood flows through his veins. So the planet is birthright. And Aerith, apparently, as we just found out, is also an ancient. And Barret also knows a little bit about what ancients are, basically saying that they are the original stewards of the planet who can commune to it. So I guess we're now starting to understand Aerith and how she kind of can tell what people are feeling.
Mm-hmm. Or why she talks to flowers, right? This now is just coming full circle. She talks to the planet. She understands what's happening. She's in tune. But at this moment where, firstly, can we just applaud the fact that the visions are back in full force? Sephiroth is here. Yay.
Yes.
Yay.
Yes.
Yay. Yeah, it's been
Yay.
too long since we had a good Sephiroth vision. And, you know, this vision, especially because of all the chaos that happened before this and leading up to this event now with Cloud, I feel like Cloud fully had his guard down. So he was completely taken by surprise with this vision. Because at the beginning of the game, I feel like the reason why Cloud was probably brooding is because obviously issues, post-traumatic stress from maybe being a soldier, something else was happening there. And I think it's because he was having frequent visions. He never really let his guard down. His guard is fully down. And that's how Sephiroth thrives. So I like the fact that Cloud is literally frozen in his steps. Like he couldn't even properly get his sword.
Right. That's true. Yeah. Can I say too, I was also taken off guard. Like I thought everything was all cool. And then I'm like, oh crap, I forgot about Sephiroth. But I got to say at this point in the game, because it's been a while, I'm enjoying when Sephiroth shows up. And especially when the music crescendos into that like fiery scaredness, I'm like, oh yeah, okay. And now I'm thinking like, okay, what is Sephiroth up to now at this point?
Mm-hmm.
He's saying the planet and it is birthright. But it's also this weird dialogue that he has with Cloud where he's like, you failed again, but that will help you grow stronger. It's what you wanted, right? And it's just like, okay, this is my theory that I told you before, again, that Sephiroth is inside of Cloud. It makes me think that if he knows his feelings and knows what he's thinking, but I'm not entirely sure what the hell he's talking about.
In terms of failing again, right? Like I feel like when he says failing again, I feel like that has to go with maybe a past like soldier instance, where Cloud failed at something big, right? Leading to his whole fright against Sephiroth. But it kind of takes me back to Elmira, Aerith's mom, who mentions to Cloud the first time she meets Cloud isn't that what you guys do? Try to get stronger, right? Like she mentions that's why he becomes a soldier.
Okay.
And Sephiroth mentions the same thing as well. So there's definitely, at first when Elmira said it, I was like, well, no, I'm pretty sure that wasn't the only reason he became a soldier. Like there's more to it than that. But now I'm thinking maybe it is. He just enrolled to get strong.
I'm liking how you're putting two and two together here. I wouldn't have thought about that. I enjoy that. Okay. Speaking of Elmira, though, we actually go back to Aerith's house to see if she knows any information on Marlene and Aerith.
About 15 years ago. My husband, he'd been shipped off to fight on the front lines. But then I received a letter saying he'd be home for a bit. So when the day came, I went to the station to meet him. But he didn't come. I couldn't help fearing the worst, even then. But I told myself his leave must have been postponed, that he'd been delayed. Every day I went, to wait and to pray. And that's how I met her and her mother. I thought maybe they'd run away from Wall Market, or that they were topsiders fallen on hard times. I'd seen that sort of thing a lot. Take Aerith somewhere safe. Those were her mother's dying words.
So we find out in this very long and informative cutscene that Aerith is the last living ancient, and that Elmira isn't her actual mom. And Aerith's mom's dying wish was to keep her safe. And Elmira obviously said yes because her husband was gone for such a long time, and she took pity and adopted her. So what do you think about this information that Aerith is the last living ancient?
I feel like Aerith is the last maybe living ancient that they know of. Because I mean, yeah. Well, yeah, right. Plus, I'm going back to my theory. I want to know about Marlene. How is it that Marlene is able to read something about Aerith that no one else knows? I think maybe can Marlene be an ancient? We don't know about her origin story, but I think that would be a good twist to that character as well. Also, is it just me, but does like Aerith's mom, biological mom, look exactly like Aerith?
But that's in every cartoon or story ever. It's always the kid looks exactly like the mom or the dad or whatever. It's like Harry Potter's kids look exactly like Harry Potter, and so on and so on. And or what? Like in Last Airbender, all the kids look like the mom and dad, Katara and Aang.
Well, Dragon Ball as well.
Yeah, they all look like the same kids. Oh, Naruto, his kid Boruto looks exactly like him, and all the kids in that show look exactly like their parents. But they always love doing that. I think it's especially in like anime or like Japanese media that they like to do that.
Yeah, it'll be interesting though, because we know this is a remake, right? So the story doesn't have to go exactly as it went before. Now that there's this whole thing with the specters, clones, maybe. What if Aerith's mom's a clone of Aerith, or Aerith is a clone of her mom? I had to go there. I'm sorry, I had to go there. I'm just putting it out there. I don't know. Just theories.
Marlene, we find out, also is safe, and this is the deal that Aerith talked about earlier with saying, basically, if you protect Marlene, then I'll come quietly, and I guess that's what happened. Good for her. Obviously, Aerith is a good person. Also, in this cutscene, we find out that Sang came into the story at one point and explained that the ancients are stewards of the planet, like we talked about before, but they have boundless wisdom who will guide Shinra to the promised land. So again, this sounds like a whole good old prophecy story as well.
Cult.
I guess it, yeah.
Cult vibes all around. Not good. Warning.
Yeah. This is, it's giving me vibes of like going to Mars, where it's like, we've already ruined the Earth so much, like Shinra has ruined Midgar so much, that we need to find a better place for us.
Yeah.
That's what it's giving me vibes of.
Yeah, the promised lands, warning all around. If anyone comes up to you and says, I'll take you to the promised lands, don't believe it. Don't go.
The Turks also mentioned this thing where Aerith has to come with them willingly, of her own volition.
Yeah.
What? Okay. So, or else the power won't work. There's so many weird things about this that I don't really understand.
It's almost as if they place her as a god.
Yes.
As an ancient.
Yeah.
And I guess that's why before, when we met Rude and Reno, they weren't too aggressive in trying to get her. They were more trying to convince her to come with them. And now we kind of get that reasoning as to why. I just don't understand like how that would affect what she's going to do for them. Maybe it affects her powers. I don't know.
Yeah. After all of this, though, are you satisfied with the backstory of Aerith now? Because for me, it's like, well, I don't understand why she's a little child, but she's an ancient. And again, you brought up the clone thing, so that could be something. But are you satisfied with that story and kind of her backstory and who she is?
I'm satisfied for now, because like my thing is there's so much happening in chapter 12 in this chapter that's revealing a lot of those holes that we had in the story or around certain characters. But because it's coming near to the end of the game, and I know this isn't the full game, I don't want to be left on a cliffhanger. So I want more information, but I know I probably won't get it for the remainder of the first part of this remake. So I think I'm satisfied for what it is right now.
What I'm not satisfied about is I believe that there's more to Aerith than her being an ancient, because the whole timeline stuff, and it feels like she knows the past, present, and future. And we're not really sure about what the powers of an ancient are, but yes, they can communicate with the planet, but I feel like she still knows too much. And again, my whole multiverse theory comes into play in this. I feel like she knows more than just being an ancient.
Well, what if ancients know everything about the ancients before them? Like, what if that's some of the knowledge that they take, or maybe through her communicating with the planet, she's able to know the history of the land, you know? That's why I'm satisfied right now. There's not too much mystery where I'm like, okay, like they need to tell me something, like this is too much of a cliffhanger, but there's still enough that would keep me interested for the next game.
Agreed. And after that's done, Barrett, he is still obsessed with finding his friends. He doesn't think that Jesse and Wedge and Biggs are dead. He wants to find them, so they go looking for him. And that's when we find a cute little kitty cat that somehow leads us to Wedge in the underground. We get split up. There's a little kind of mini explosion, which leaves Cloud away from Barrett and Tifa, but Tifa and Barrett actually find Wedge, and he's okay. He's alive, which, again, I'm going to bring up, just randomly thought of this. In the original game, Wedge dies, but in this game, Wedge is alive. So what is that telling me? It's telling me that everything, you cannot trust everything that's happening in this game. Yeah. Nothing is what it seems.
Exactly. You don't know what to expect, even if you've played the first game. And I like that. It keeps it interesting, but familiar. It keeps that fine line where we want to continue playing for the story, not just for, you know, seeing these characters and these cutscenes kind of play out in 3D animations. But I do love this portion here because when they get separated, you play as Barrett. And I had a lot of fun. As Barrett just because his one-liners are the best.
Agreed.
The best.
Yeah.
I love it.
Can I say this too? At the end of the game, I enjoyed playing as Barrett the most. And near the end of the game, I started playing more as Barrett as my main guy than Cloud. Because I just like his gunshots and his super
the range
crazy limit breaks. Yeah.
Yeah. The range he has was great. And like it's pretty easy at this part too when you're walking around as Barrett because like they're just like really small fly-like enemies that if you just even shoot them with your regular attack, you're fine. You got this.
Cloud actually returns to the group at the end of this mission, and they deal with some failed experiments. There's one giant one and a lot of his minions, and it's almost a boss fight, but not really because it's pretty easy, right? It's not that big of a deal.
Well, they're kind of like the it's not hard. The thing is, right? I just don't think I had the proper things equipped for this fight because like the little minions are kind of like specters, and then the big guy uses them. This failed experiment, the big one uses the little guys as like weapons to toss, and then at the beginning, Tifa's up on the bridge, trying to kind of close a hole where these failed experiments are coming in. So you're separated, but still in the same area. So because I had Barrett on the ground, he was just getting swamped, and like. My Tifa doesn't have a lot of range attacks. Like she only has, I think I put Thunder on her, which is not effective on this failed experiment. I think it's like Blizzard is really ice is really effective. So that was my issue because like they kept swarming Barrett. And then also my Tifa doesn't have Cure. Barrett has Cure, so I kept having to use Cure or like throwing potions at Barrett because they were just swarming him.
I use Punisher mode, and I just spam Punisher mode, and then I use Barrett for Cure, and I just repeat and rinse and repeat, and then obviously using his range attacks because those helped on the creepy crawlers. But yes. I didn't have any issues with the flight. But I Cure like mad, so maybe that's why. But it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
And once we defeat these failed experiments, we do find that hole in the wall, and we find some interesting things that leads to, guess what? Another Cloud headache.
Oh God, were those
people?
Yeah, that's the Shinra I know.
Cloud?
Oh, okay. So again, we can't really tell too much about the audio in that one, but Cloud actually sees himself as an experiment. There is a little cubicle thing or tube.
Like in a tube,
shows,
yeah.
Yes, that shows like a nameless body, just a gray body, and then Cloud envisions him as it. So again, you're bringing up clones with Aerith. Is Cloud a clone? Is that what they're trying to tell us?
Well, remember reunion. This would explain that reunion. We thought that, Cloud, we should just clip that and have that as a sound effect throughout the podcast. But we think that maybe Sephiroth is a part of Cloud. And I mean, if you have a clone and you could mix DNA together, that would make Cloud and Sephiroth into, right? That would explain the reunion and the Cloud visions.
All right.
And why we see himself talking to himself in previous chapters.
Yes, that is always strange to me. I'm still holding out hope for a multiverse, but that's okay. I can take that. That makes a lot of sense. But what I don't understand in all of that is the Spectres show up again. But at this point, it's weird because they're trying to shove them away, and they do end up shoving them away back into Wedge's house somehow with some miraculous power. But they shove them away. It's like, are they trying to hide this information from Cloud?
Yeah. Or are they trying to are they trying to protect them? Was there danger in there? Seriously, because there's a lot of figures. It wasn't like these are empty tubes. There were a lot of tubes there that kind of had similar silhouettes to the failed experiments too, right? So could have that been a boss fight if we didn't get pushed away from the Spectres?
I feel like there are so many questions that we have no answers to, and all of this is just theories. But again, it's the allure of this game. I'm loving that I don't know what's going on, even though I played the original game. And I'm hanging my hat on this. I applaud Square Enix for this. We'll dive into it more at the end of the game, but I love where this is headed, where I feel like this is completely a new game, and I'm going to hang my hat on it. I love it.
It's just so good how they keep your interest. And I really do feel like they're revealing, I don't feel cheaped out on extremely frustrated on not knowing. I'm still wanting to follow the steps of the story to get there, to get my mystery, the gaps kind of filled there in that mystery. So they really do a good job making that line between what you need to know right now and what you don't need to know right now.
Agreed. And at the end of the mission, Barrett accepts that his friends are dead and lost. So I guess we have to accept that too. He promises to carry the burden of their deaths as the groups head back to Aerith's house with Wedge. And that's the end of chapter 13, A Broken World. It truly is a broken world. But we'll dive into more why it's a broken world and maybe why all is lost in the next segment on AutoSave.
I saw them both at the pillar. Jesse and Biggs. Saw how bad they were hurt. I'm sorry, but...
Don't.
They've returned to the planet.
All right, Tifa, are you an ancient now? They've returned to the planet? Okay. I see
I know,
where
it's
you
like,
went there,
okay.
Tifa.
Yeah, she's getting those crystals. She's on board with all of this. What's your astrological sign? Tifa knows everything. Yeah. It's no, but you know what? It just shows that friendship again that she has with Aerith, or maybe that she kind of wants to be Aerith because Cloud kind of digs Aerith, but maybe not. Maybe it's she's just kind of remembering. Yeah, she's just remembering her friend Aerith, and her friend's not with her, so she's being the Aerith when Aerith would say something like that to this group. So,
Barrett, feels the most responsible for the death of his friends. Do you think he's right to feel this way?
I mean, it kind of like it goes. I could understand why he feels this way, right? He is the leader of this segment of Avalanche, this house of Avalanche, if you will. So as the leader, I feel like there is some responsibility there to ensure your members are safe. But then it kind of goes back to what he was telling Tifa. Tifa can't feel responsible for this because they never pulled the trigger themselves on dropping that plate. It was Shinra. Shinra made this move. And that's what it comes down to. There were so many other ways to deal with Avalanche. This is all Shinra. It has nothing to do with Avalanche. This is Shinra just overstepping.
I also like that you can tell that Barrett is like he has a hard exterior, but he has a heart of gold, because there's a lot of maybe movies, TV shows, games where there's always that hard character who knows what they're dealing with. And in Avalanche's case, they know they're like a terrorist group and they're trying to save the planet, but they know that there's going to be costs to that. They know that, people are going to die. And a lot of characters that we see, especially kind of like Barrett's mold, where he just seems like such a hard ass, normally they just kind of accept it. But for him, he really takes it on as a burden and believes like these are his friends that he loves, and he's actually sad about it.
Yeah. I love seeing the side of all of the characters. Obviously, it's an emotional couple chapters. I got emotional, like I said, going through them. So it was great to see the characters that you wouldn't think be that emotional or hasn't shown that before let their guard down and mirror what the player is feeling.
That's a good point, moving to Cloud. Especially for him and his emotional state. Do you think it's a turning point for him in these missions on him becoming not necessarily a better person, but him now becoming more human in a way, where now he really feels how his friends are feeling? Because before he just seemed really robotic.
Yeah. Like he seemed ex-soldier. He would always, any time he introduced himself or someone else introduced him to someone else, it was always, this is the ex-soldier or the merc, right? Those, when you classify as that, they just have that identity of like having a hard exterior and not showing any emotion and just doing what they're told. Now, all bets are off the table. Cloud cannot go back to brooding. He cannot go back. Like, I swear after these chapters, if he goes back to being like, oh, I don't care, like I am going to lose my mind, because we've seen so much of Cloud. It makes him so much more of an interesting character. And we talked about this when we began playing this game. In the original, Cloud was just kind of like a hero, your typical hero, not really too much depth to him. This game really gave him, and these two chapters especially, really gave him depth. You can't turn back on that. So it'll be interesting how his emotions and how vulnerable he's been in these chapters transfers to when he needs to be the hero. If Square Enix does it where he just shuts down again and like doesn't talk to like Tifa about anything, or doesn't, just goes back to brooding again, like I said, I don't think it seems like a good development for this character.
That's a possibility though, because we saw it in chapter 9 where he was opening up with Aerith, and then he became more hard-shelled again when we went through the haunting area. So I hope that doesn't happen either, but it's a possibility that it could. I hope not. I hope we're all dealing with growth here, because I've grown on this experience as well, and I hope you have too.
Yes, I have grown. I've grown, and I've loved growing with these characters, actually.
So a few quick small notes on the gameplay that I had to mention. Helicopter soldiers are the most annoying things. Those guys that hold on to one little flying contraption. And I have also, no idea.
This is the most ineffective way to fight, honestly, if you're looking 100%. At it. If this was real life and a strong wind, especially because there's actual helicopters that is blowing wind all over the place, these helicopter soldiers would not survive. So the fact that they're always in your face, there no matter what or who gets in their way, is unrealistic. And I just wish the game would just throw them out, just throw them away.
And they're always shooting too. Like, leave me alone. I could run to the opposite side of the map and they still find me somehow.
How do they reload? That's what I want to know. How are they reloading while they're hanging on to the helicopter? The propeller. It's not even a helicopter. It's a propeller.
Yeah, it's just a propeller. An auto propeller, one-man show. I have no idea.
Yeah.
Whatever. I just hate them. They're the worst. And all flying minions in this whole game are the worst. You can also buy Big Bertha for Barrett in Chapter 13. I prefer to use the gun myself because it's a big long range thing, and I think we don't have enough long range weapons in the game, and some of these weapons for Barrett are close range, so it doesn't make sense for me. I don't use it personally. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I'm with you. I prefer the long range.
All right, so let's look back at our overall theme. All is lost. Do you think the game and Square Enix do a good job at making you feel like there's no way Cloud and the gang could come back from this?
It's hard because we kind of know what's going to happen.
Yes.
But then we also don't know. So it's like, I think they do a good job at piquing your interest into what's going to happen.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's hard for a remake or, a remaster of a game to make you feel like all is lost when you know, and especially with this trope, usually when all is lost, you know that there's going to be a redemption story in there, right? The hero will come back in full force. So yes and no, but it was a really hard task for Square to do this with a remake.
I'm looking at comparison to like Empire Strikes Back, where when I first watched that movie, or even when I watch it now, I still feel like a sense of, oh crap, like how do they come back from this? And in this sense, I feel like in Chapter 13, A Broken World, I feel like they give us more of a glimmer of hope at the end, where I feel at peace with everything that's happened. And I feel like the characters will come back to this. So I don't think it's necessarily a complete all is lost situation where I don't know. I automatically think they're going to rescue Aerith. They're going to do all this stuff. It doesn't make me feel like a sense of, oh crap, like they are broken.
Well, I think also what it is too is there's no leads. Like right now we have no leads on what they're going to do next, right? Because their home base is destroyed. All their connections are scattered. Their other Avalanche forces are all disconnected. So it literally is just them. Before what we saw with Avalanche, they were making plans. They were getting bombs from other people. They were, coordinating with other sectors of Avalanche. So I feel like that can't happen anymore because Avalanche took such a huge hit. So I guess in that respect, yeah, all is lost in a sense. Like where do they pick up and go to find Aerith? And how are they going to do that next?
I think that's a good point to end it for our show this week. But as for next week, there's a glimmer of hope for the gang.
You've done more for us than we deserve. I won't forget this. If you ever need anything, all you gotta do is holler.
Happy to help out, however I can.
Elmira.
I've been thinking about what you said.
She's calling out to me. I can feel it.
We all can. So please. She's our friend. We have to help her.
I always knew it was coming. Knew that one day I'd have to say goodbye to my baby girl. But not yet. Please, bring her back to me.
But you'll have to find out next time on AutoSave.
AutoSave is produced and hosted by Camille Salazar-Hadaway and myself, Nick Andrade. The show is also produced by Dylan Wilson. Gameplay and additional elements provided by Chris Seitzer. Executive producer, Clayton Hansler. You can follow the show at AutoSave Podcast on Twitter and AutoSave Pod on Instagram, YouTube, and Twitch.
You can subscribe to the show wherever you're listening to it right now, and if it happens to be Apple Podcasts, kindly leave us a rating and review, but only if it's good. AutoSave is a Soda original, hosted on the Soda Podcast Network.